Okay, we're late. I was on a phone call. I'm not set up, but we're going to talk about our favorite topic today. How do we end up in the material world? And other such interesting topics. We've been talking about death, but now we're on this point in the workshop where we're talking about going back to Godhead. So, I just wanted to set up, because we started late, I want you to know I'm here. So I actually started before we're actually set up. So we're just going to set up while everyone's coming online. That's okay. I have to move some things around. We could do something fun today. Should we do something fun? What could I have? I have this. I look like a radio DJ. I have this little setup because when I have my AC on, I have to use a mic right by my mouth. And so today we'll have fun and we'll use this and we'll see how you like it. It's not plugged in yet, which is why you may not be hearing me well. So, I'm totally unready for you. But you're also unready for me because it takes you time. Excuse me. Takes you time for all of you to come, because you don't all come right at 8. So we're all getting ready together. Yesterday, I had a wonderful day. I recorded Shishashtakam. Isn't that great? We have to mix it, but I recorded it. One of the recordings was done last night about 10 o'clock. So, hold on everyone, totally disorganized. So you'll someday get to hear the whole Shishashtakam was recorded. We had the music from a year ago and I never was able to sing it. And I sang it last night and I had, okay, hold on. Da-dum, da-dum. Wait. Now you can hear me a little bit, right? You can hear now? Better? Yes? No? Hare Krishna. Better? Like a radio DJ. Okay. Yeah. So this, I'm getting a mic cover, it should come today. This was designed so when the AC is on, I can put it on and you won't hear all the shh in the background. That was the idea. So, that's why I look like I'm doing a podcast. But anyway, I'm sure you can hear me, right? Loud and clear? Beautiful? Perfect. Okay. Now, a few minor details. I need my computer because we're going to read. We're going to read how we got into the material world. Where do we fall from? The question. The big question. It's not that I want to talk about it, but I'm going through all these questions, or devotees are asking questions to Prabhupada, and naturally they ask, how could we come here? Could you be envious of Krishna in the spiritual world? They ask all these questions, and then I'm going through the questions, and they're all interesting, so then I decide, okay, let's just put him in there to get more confused, in a sense. Do you know that in every religious tradition, there are contradictions and questions that are difficult to answer and different leaders with different answers? So it's not uncommon that we might find that. So we're going to get back today. We're getting back to our discussions on this. What happens after death, questions about the spiritual world. So, Hare Krishna to everyone. Nice to see you. And yes. Let's start. So we are reading, is Kamaniya, are you here? The document that I have says Entering the Spiritual World Evening Conversation. That's where it says we left off. And that is page 22. Unfortunately, I didn't put this document on... I used to put these documents on Google so you could read them, and I haven't been doing that. Should I do that? Would that be better? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Do I look professional now? I have another microphone that's really professional. But this is just what I put up for now. Okay, so I'm just going to start reading. I don't know if Kamaniya is here or not. But this is entitled Entering the Spiritual World. This is an evening conversation. Aitreya Risha is asking a question. Whether one can enter the kingdom of God with this body. Can I go back to Godhead in this body? Just boop. And then kind of like when you get to the spiritual world and the body like, I don't know, if you die when you're 80 and you go back in the same body and you get there when you're 80, it may not be a good idea. No, you get there and it changes into a young, beautiful body. Not exactly. So Prabhupada says, no, that is already explained. Taktva deham. You have to give... Okay, the bad news, here's the bad news. You have to give up a body to get a new one. But I don't want to die. Well, how are you going to go back to Godhead if you don't die? I don't know. Can I not die and go back to Godhead? Not exactly. You have to give up this body. But I'm attached to the body. But you have to give it up to get a spiritual body. But what if I'm attached and I don't want to give it up? Then you don't get a spiritual body. Excuse me, it's Himalayan drugs, the best drugs in the world. Not really drugs, but Himalayan. Maybe it'll stop me from sneezing. Yeah, so Takta Deha Punarjanma. Krishna says, if you know my birth and activities, then Taktva Deha, when you give up this body, Punarjanma, you won't take another body. He's asking, can you go in this body? And Prabhupada said, no, you have to give up this body to get in there. You try to get in the spiritual world with this body. They go, sorry, sir, you'll have to give up this body before you come in. But I don't want to give up this body. I like this body. Sorry, sir, if you like that body, you'll have to stay in the material world. By bhakti, when he's mature, he gives up his body. Then he enters into the spiritual world. Taktva deham. Giving up this body. You cannot enter, although by devotional service, the material activities of the body will stop. But you have to wait for the moment when the material body is no more existing. Then, with spiritual body, you can enter. Takta deham mam eti. Vishite tad anantaram. Tad anantaram, after death. And if you have got little pinch, okay, here it comes. Da-dun-dun-dun. We didn't even do kirtan. I did so much kirtan last night. I didn't even think of doing kirtan. I was so excited to start talking. Anyway, the keyboard's here. If we have time at the end, which we never do, we can try. So, now I remember why I chose this. Because this is something we've all probably heard before. If you haven't heard this before, make sure you're not standing up, because I don't want you to fall over on the ground and bang your head. So here Prabhupada says, Vishite tad anantaram, you enter this anantam after death. That's what Krishna is saying. But, here's the punchline, make sure you're all sitting down. And if you have got a little pinch of material attachment, then you have to accept another material body. Sorry to start your day off with bad news. And if you have got little pinch of material attachment, then you have to accept another material body. Now, this totally goes against practically everything I've ever said about going back to Godhead. And we had, I think it was the last class on Friday, when we were showing all the things that Prabhupada said, the different ways that you would go back to Godhead, following the principles, doing Sankirtan, opening the temple in Mayapur, understanding Krishna's Leela, like that. Prabhupada said, but these are ways you all go back to Godhead. And now, what Prabhupada's saying here, it seems to be a contradiction, doesn't it? You agree? It seems like a contradiction. He's saying, dedicate your life to Sankirtan, you'll go back to Godhead. Chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 principles, you go back to Godhead. And now he's saying, but if you have a pinch of material desire, you won't go. So, how do we understand it? Let's read on and then we'll discuss it. And if you have got little pinch of material attachment, then you'll have to accept another material body. So we have to come to the point that no more I want anything material. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam. I am no more anyone's servant. I am neither American, nor Iranian, nor Indian, nor Hindu, nor Muslim. Iranian, right? Not this, not that. I'm simply servant of blank. That is my servant of Krishna. That is my position. And so long I shall keep attachment for this designation temporary. What is this? Iranian, American, Indian. So for a few years, because you have to change the body, takta deham tata dehantara. So after giving up this body, you have to accept another body. If I am in the next body, I become a sparrow, then where is my conception of Iranian, Indian, Hindu, and Muslim? I am a sparrow, jumping like a sparrow. That's all. So these are designations, temporary designations. So one has to become free from these temporary designations, then he's liberated. That is bhakti. So I need to encourage you all, because now you might be a little discouraged thinking, well, I have material desire. In fact, I have more than a pinch. I have many pinches, actually maybe gallons. But if we're to take what Prabhupada said the way we think he meant it, and it sounds like, if for one moment I have a thought that I want something other than Krishna, I'll never get out of the material world. That I have to be totally pure, not ever for 1 second any thought other than pure bhakti. That's not what Prabhupada means, because if that's the case, Prabhupada would have packed his bags and gone back to India and said, this is going to be impossible here. It's not going to work with all of you. One time, Prabhupada's disciples were criticized by some Indian man. And Prabhupada, he said, yes, whatever. But their qualification is, whatever I ask them, they'll do it. Whatever I say, they'll do it. And you found that with Prabhupada's disciples. Okay, go here, open this temple. Yes, Prabhupada. Take sannyas, do this. Yes, Prabhupada. Get this bus, travel. Yes, Prabhupada. So, definitely, we would do whatever Prabhupada asked. That's what Prabhupada is saying. We are willing to give our lives, or anyone who's giving their lives, in that sense, doesn't have a pinch of material desire. That's more the context we understand it. I give my life to Krishna. And you might say, but I still identify with my body. That may be true, but at the same time, you can't give your life to Krishna if you identify with the body. Because one of the reasons we give our life to Krishna is because we realize I'm a servant eternally. I'm not a Chilean or a Polian. What are you called? A Polk? I forgot. If you're from Poland, what are you called? I'm not a Polk. I'll make up names. I'm not a Chilean. Italian's easy. Indian's easy. American's easy. South American's easy. I'm not a Argentinian. I'm not a Bolivian. I'm not a Colombian. So, are you a Polian? I don't think. I think you're a Polski. Polski, right? I'm not a Polski. I'm not a Ruski. Lithuanian, that's simple. Polian, it can't be Polian. A Chinean, I'm not a Chinean. No. So, and you may think, PC may think, no, I'm Chinese, and Krishna Karshini may think, no, I'm Polish, or no, I'm a Polish woman. But the fact that you spent so many years in devotional service, a Pole. Oh, okay. Margojata has enlightened me. And the Poles, that's easy to say. You might be a Pole. Polish. Oh, Polish is the English and Pole is the, yeah. Why didn't I think of Polish? Like my brain's not working. Okay. But in order to do devotional service the way most of us are doing it, we can't identify too much with the body, because if we did, we wouldn't be able to do all the austerity. All you women wouldn't be able to put up with all the you-know-what you sometimes get from the men, and some things that in Shastra that aren't so flattering. You have to realize you're not the body just to deal with that, right? And to do all the austerity that we do, we get up. You know, when we were brahmacharis, we took cold showers. Do you know that? Hot showers were illegal. You would get taken to the brahmachari prison. In fact, in one temple, they had no hot water. They took the handles off the hot water, so we wouldn't, enjoy a hot shower. God forbid you enjoy a hot shower. Who knows what hellish planet you're going to go to. So we're up at 4 o'clock, no matter what time we went to bed. We get up, take a cold shower, any time of the year, with summer or winter. You have to have some idea you're not the body to do that. So Prabhupada's saying you don't identify with the body, and you don't have any material desire. And we're thinking, oh, I do identify with the body and have so many desires. But the fact is, to do devotional service on this level, you pretty much, at least intellectually, don't identify with the body. And pretty much you've given your life to Krishna, which means really you say, no, I have so many desires. How strong are your desires? Oh, I want to eat chocolate ice cream. All right. Chocolate ice cream or going back to Godhead? Which one would you take? Oh, let me think about it. No, I'll take going back to Godhead. It's not, my favorite salad or going back to Godhead. My favorite song or going back to Godhead. It's, So I think we have to understand it in that way, that the heart of the devotee is dedicated. So that's how we adjust the contradiction. So Prabhupada, in one sense, by saying you shouldn't have a pinch of material desire, in one sense he's flattering his disciples, saying you don't. I mean, you can look at it that way. No, you've dedicated your life to Krishna. You don't have material desire. And even if you do have material desire, you're not really acting on it, so therefore you don't really have it. That context, that's the way I would house the context of what Prabhupada's saying. Otherwise, if we take it literally, if you have one pinch of material desire, you can't go back to Godhead. Why are we doing devotional service and trying to go back to Godhead? Because basically nobody's going to make it. The only ones who will make it are the ones who were born liberated, because everyone else is going to have some pinch of desire. But, and we understand, no, you go and enjoying Krishna's Leela before even you have that pinch left, you go there and you get pinched, you pinch it out. So Prabhupada's saying you can't go back to God with a pinch of material desire. You could also say it doesn't mean you can't go into Boma Leela to get that pinch out. And definitely when you meet Krishna on this planet and engage in his Leela, that will pinch out all material desire. And then you can go back to Godhead. So we can understand it that way also. So you don't have to worry. Just get into Boma Leela, Krishna's Leela on this planet, get trained up, and then go back to Godhead. It'll all be good. But the other point I was making, which I think is so interesting, nobody wants to die and everyone wants to go back to Godhead, right? Raise your hand if you want to go back to Godhead. Everyone raises their hand. Raise your hand if you want to die. No one raises their hand. It's interesting, right? I mean, if you knew that when you were at the time of your death, you're going back to Godhead, it probably would be a lot easier to die. And in fact, you might volunteer to die earlier, right? But we should have that faith. If we've given our life to Krishna, then we will go back. So the bad news for today is you have to die to go back to Godhead. I don't know how bad news that is, but you might think it's bad news, but it's just what it is. And I think we're living in such an amazing time because things are so bad. It makes it so much easier to be Krishna conscious because the alternatives are really bad. Maybe 50 years ago, alternatives were a little better. The world wasn't so polluted. Things were not so bad 100 years ago. Alternatives were always bad, but they're getting really bad now. At least the ramifications of the alternatives are getting really bad. So, in one sense, we don't like it, but in the other sense, we have to see that Krishna's helping us. It's like, you want to stay here? I'm going to make it so bad that you won't want to stay here. That's what I feel like Krishna is saying sometimes. When things are so bad, and you look at the world and you're thinking, it's so bad, things are so bad, or they're just like you're in Mayapur or Vrindavan now. It's like, it's so hot. I'm so thirsty. Whatever it is, like mosquitoes are bothering me. Just think, Krishna, thank you, you're so kind. You're making it like impossible for me to like want to stay here and be happy. You've like pulled the carpet from under me. You have closed all the roads. Thank you. I needed that. I'm so stupid. That's what I need. Kamaniya, better late than never. Okay. Vitamin D, vitamin C, and vitamin and zinc if you're feeling under the weather. Okay, Kamaniya, the next one is the top of page 23. The soul warms the body. This was interesting. Hare Krishna. I don't have any tissues. What to do? Okay, well, we have some comments here. Let's go. I have to use my left hand now. Or maybe we don't have comments. Yeah. Anandita. Anandita says, in Srila Prabhupada's last letter to Jayananda, Srila Prabhupada states that if there's any tinge of material desire, we can get a demigod body where there is again a chance of making spiritual advancement if that's what you want. So, is there always an opportunity to make spiritual advancement? It depends on you. Or should we assume that we can even get an animal body? Well, devotees won't get an animal body, but let's say, like Prabhupada was saying, because you do devotional service, and if you have some material desire, Krishna will say, okay, you can go to Heavenly Planet and enjoy, and then come back and finish up your devotional service. I want to give you that reward. First thought comes to my mind is, well, if I go in that situation of all this material enjoyment, maybe when I come back again after all that, I won't want to be a devotee. So, Prabhupada's, that's like kind of like a philosophical statement, or that was Prabhupada's analysis. If Jayananda had material desire, he could go to heaven, but if he didn't, or if he was chanting Hare Krishna, he'll go back to Krishna. So, but Prabhupada's general tenor was, you will take birth as a devotee and you will continue, because that's what the devotee wants. But he also said many, many times, don't live in a way that you leave any doors open for coming back. Just live in a way, you shut all the doors on anything other than Krishna consciousness, and then just do that. That's Prabhupada's general I have to turn this. It's too much light. That's Prabhupada's general idea. We're going to get more light here and less light here, and it'll be perfect. We'll have no problems. Less light there. More light here. Everyone will be happy. Only problem with more light here is these shutters are a bit broken. Okay, how's that? Beautiful? Now we have too much light there. Okay, I guess the world's not perfect. I was wrong. I thought it could become perfect. Yeah. So, look at it this way. Prabhupada wants us to go back to Godhead. Prabhupada said we can go back to Godhead in this life. He's asking us to go back to Godhead. So, let's do it. And as far as, this pinch of material desire, or what you were saying, if you had some material desire, Krishna can take that away, right? And it's not like, we say material desire. I would also say, what is the general state of your consciousness? Is the general state of your consciousness that I want to be a devotee? Or is the general state of your consciousness that I want to enjoy this world? And we can say that for most devotees, the predominant mood of their heart is they want to serve. And even if you have a material desire, sometimes you have a desire, but it doesn't even mean you really want it. I'm sure there are many things in your life that you think you want, but if you actually had them, you'd realize you don't really want them. Or if you could have them, you might say, well, I was just thinking I wanted it, but really I don't. Well, why don't you want them? Well, I don't have time because I have devotional service. It would be nice to do that or nice to have that, but I don't have time. I have so much service, etc. And I'm starting this new project, and devotees want me to do this. That means devotees their heart is in service. So even you have these material desires, they're kind of like, the more you advance in Krishna consciousness, the less they mean. They're not that important. Yeah, I have to finish my education, get this degree, do this. That's just so I can get a job. You know what Prabhupada said, just as a side point? I heard this story. Maybe you heard this. Bhakti Swami told this story. It's so interesting. Prabhupada met a very, very wealthy man, and the man came with his grandchildren, and Prabhupada said, you should send your grandchildren to Gurukula, because he said they don't need an education to find a job because they come from this wealthy family and you have your own business and so forth. And then Prabhupada was saying, he said modern education is just to train people up to be Shudras, to just go out and find a job. That's all. So we go to university, we get an education so we can earn a living, get a job. It's not that important. Krishna consciousness is important. So, I want to get a good job. You want all these things, but really, when you analyze it, what's most important to you? Hearing, chanting, serving, and so forth. So, now the more that becomes important to you, the more chance there's going to be that when you leave your body, that's the only thing that's important, and there's nothing left in this world that's important. So when you leave your body, then you actually don't have that pinch of desire. You have no pinch. You just want to serve Krishna. This is why I need a cover for it, and I ordered it July 30th. It's still not here, because when I go pinch, if you have actual speakers and real headphones, it's going to sound like an explosion. If you have those little earbuds, you don't even hear it. It's so funny, people, some studios have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, $1 million worth of equipment, and they make these beautiful recordings. And then people play them with MP3s on cheap headphones, and they can't hear. They hardly hear what it actually is supposed to sound like. It's so funny. The world is crazy. Crazy, crazy. Okay, did that answer your question? I have to get this cord out of the way. Did that answer your question? Anandita. Nanda. Oh, this is a mess. Okay. That's not working. Okay, left hand. Inauspicious, but it's okay because to you it looks like my right hand. Right? Poles. How are the Poles doing? The Polish Poles. Sadhguru says, but why did being with Lord Chaitanya didn't pinch out all material desires for some of his devotees? Balabhadra was a lesson. Krishnadas was a lesson for us. Yeah. Well, we were reading something. It was quite, some devotees would think is quite strange and interesting. Can you fall from the spiritual world? And Prabhupada saying, yes. And wait a minute. There's two problems with that. One problem is easy to bring up because Krishna says, when you go, you won't fall. You can't fall. Once going, one never returns. Then, from prema, it's generally said, in the stage of prema, you won't fall. So how could, that's another question. Let's just go with, it's getting controversial now. Let's just go with once going back, you can't fall. And then they asked Prabhupada, can you fall? And he said, yes, but you won't, which is an interesting answer. The yes is, you're independent. You're jiva, you're tatastha. You can make choices. Nobody can control your choices other than you. And the reality is, once you go back, you will not make that choice. Or as Krishna Karshani said, no one there would ever make that choice. Even the ones who never came down, they would never make that choice. Which I won't argue with. It's another discussion we've had. So, so Prabhupada, he's stating a philosophical point. So, the if I'm with Lord Chaitanya, then it's hard to believe that I would have any material desire. Now that story is there about a devotee he was a devotee, not just, okay, I'm an ordinary person. Yeah, I might have some material desire because I'm just an ordinary person. Even in say, well, you see Lord Chaitanya, you should have no desire. Yeah, but it depends who the seer is. They may be very, very fallen, very contaminated. Maybe they're atheistic or whatever. No, but they see Lord Chaitanya. They're probably not seeing Lord Chaitanya. They're just seeing a person who just they think is an ordinary person because they don't have the heart and the eyes to see. So this story with Krishnadas, Kala Krishnadas, that was his name. Kala Krishnadas, he was with Lord Chaitanya and he got distracted by some beautiful women. That's like, if nothing else works, beautiful women always does it in the end. If you can't distract them with money or fame or a position in Google, just get a beautiful woman, that'll do it. It works every time, right? When all else fails, just get a beautiful woman, it works every time. So that's what happened to him. And so the moral of the story is that you are tatashta, which means you could make bad choices. And at least when you're in this world, you can make bad choices. And he made a bad choice, and that's what happened. And that story is a fantastic story. When I tell that story, Satyarupa, I always tell the story of Prahlad Maharaj, because Prahlad Maharaj was in the opposite situation. Krishnadas was with Lord Chaitanya, and he made a bad choice. And Prahlad Maharaj is with Hiranyakashipu and all his atheistic friends and atheistic teachers, and he chose Krishna. So he was in an environment where no one was choosing Krishna, and there was no Krishna except in his heart, of course, and he chose Krishna. And Kala Krishnadas is with Lord Chaitanya, and he chose the gypsies. Now all I can say is, those gypsies must have been really attractive, because if someone's going to attract you away from Lord Chaitanya, they must be pretty attractive, right? And I am happy I didn't meet those gypsies. I'm happy all the men in ISKCON didn't meet those gypsies, because they sound like some amazing gypsies. They could even take away the personal servant of Lord Chaitanya. That is amazing. And I love that story for that very reason, that never underestimate the power of a beautiful face. Or in general, never underestimate the power of Maya. Or as Prabhupada said, for a woman, you know, we're not just talking about men and men being attracted to women, we're also talking about women being attracted to men. Never underestimate the power of Maya in the form of a beautiful member of the opposite sex. Hare Krishna. It's amazing. You know, Maya is so amazing. Have you ever had this experience? You're attracted to something that you're not attracted to, and you can't understand, why am I attracted to this? It's not even attractive. Yeah, therefore, never underestimate the power of Maya to attract you to even something you're not attracted to. You know, are renunciates sometimes attracted to women? It can happen. But they became renunciates because they want nothing, they don't want relationship with women. And then sometimes you see a renunciate becomes attracted. It happens. Not every day, but it happens. So they're becoming attracted to something you're not even attracted to. And then they engage in a relationship with a woman, they get frustrated, they realize they were never attracted, why did they do that? And then they become renounced again. So it's a crazy world. You have to be careful. Don't think you're entirely immune. I think we could think that we're immune if we chant very, very purely every day and we're absorbed in hearing Bhagavatam and serving the Vaishnavas and doing service. Then I think we could be secure that Maya is not going to touch us. And that would not be pride, but that would actually be Siddhanta. It's true, and Prabhupada said that. If you do all these things, Maya will not touch you. So if you ask me, how are you doing? And I say, Maya cannot touch me. And you're thinking, you're arrogant. I say, no, this is the Siddhanta. Today I chanted very good rounds. I studied for a few hours. Did service yesterday for like 18 hours. I'm respecting the Vaishnavas. I'm trying to be humble, trying to be clean. And then I can say, Maya will not touch me because I've taken shelter of the process. I could say that, right? Without being proud, just being Siddhantic. That's the philosophy. At the same time, we should never think independent of those processes that I have any strength to withstand the power of Maya. That's the idea. So, two sides of the issue. On my own, I can't do it. Under the shelter of Krishna, I can do it through the shelter of the process of sadhana and association and service. Then I can do it. Otherwise, not. Yeah. So the moral of the story of Kaladas, there are many morals, but the moral that we're talking about here is you always have independence anywhere you go. But the point is, in the spiritual world, you only use your independence for service. But here in this world, who knows what you're going to use it for. Okay, I'm just going down. Krishna Karshani says, maybe the reason why pinch of material desire is still in the heart at the moment of death, because we were living in denial of having no material desires. It could be. I notice that sometimes devotees think. Thinking can be dangerous sometimes. I notice that sometimes devotees think. Have you noticed that? I've also noticed that. And sometimes I've noticed that thinking is dangerous. Have you noticed that? You've noticed that also, right? Should we stop thinking if thinking is dangerous? No. Okay. I've noticed that sometimes devotees, thinking they are free of material desires and are only focused on Krishna, but after some time, usually late in life, it's called midlife crisis, those desires coming out and they are trying to desperately fulfill them. Like I noticed that some men in ISKCON getting married very late in life, so maybe better to fulfill as many desires as possible, as soon as possible. Okay, the conclusion of today's class is, let's end class now and get out there, everyone, and fulfill as many desires as you have as soon as possible so you don't die an old maid or what's the opposite of an old maid? An old guy, an old fogey. You don't die an old maid or an old fogey full of material desires. Okay. Class is over. That was a happy ending. Get out there and enjoy. All right. If I say that, I will have my guru license revoked and I'll be put in prison for false doctrines. Okay, but there is some truth to it. It's not entirely false. There is some truth to that. But I would say, Krishna Karshani, Krishna Karshani is saying you have to be realistic. If you think you're renounced and you're not, it's going to come up behind you when you're like 60 years old and go, you renounced all these things, but you really want them, and now I'm going to drive you crazy. That's there. But the point is that you can fulfill those desires if they're not sinful. But you have to be very careful how you fulfill them, because if you're not careful, then in the fulfillment of the desire, you will then increase the desire. And you want to fulfill the desire so it goes away. Right? It's like I have a little scratch here. I just want to scratch it so it's not itching. But if I'm not careful, I'll make it itch more. So where's the demarcation between relieving the itch and making it itch more? That's the question, and that's the problem. So in the name of being real and fulfilling a desire, if you itch it too much, then it backfires and it becomes stronger. So that's the whole art. Fulfill desires in a way that you become purified. Just like, I think I told you, excuse me, Badahari and I were talking a few weeks ago. He was over here. It was my birthday or something. He came for my birthday and we chanted and sang songs for like 12 hours or something. And my wife wouldn't let me broadcast it. Don't broadcast it, it's private. Your life is too public, don't broadcast. So you would have liked to see it. But we were talking about our propensity to do music and how we didn't do it for so many years as brahmacharis. But the propensity was always there, it was always strong. And some devotees didn't really need to cater to that propensity, and some devotees, it was just who they were. It was so much who they were. They had to channel that. But fortunately, you can channel it into kirtan and Krishna conscious music, which makes having a musical propensity something easy to deal with or good to have. But we were just talking about how that need is there for so many devotees to express themselves. It doesn't have to be music, but in some way. So that's the crucial point, is how can you express it in a way that it purifies you? And if you're not careful, it will putrefy you. It will destroy you. So what Krishna Karshani said is true. We've seen it in many situations. People who thought they were renounced, and later in life, it came up. Right? I know so many brahmacharis, they have sexual problems and they don't want to get married. And I'm saying, if you can't conquer this, you have to get married. Otherwise, you're going to be some dirty old brahmachari man when you're 60 years old. I mean, it's unfortunate that you think, okay, why can't I just chant Hare Krishna and get rid of all my material desires? That would be a lot easier, right? I have this desire to do music. I have this desire to be with the opposite sex. I have this desire to make money. I have this desire to have kids. I have this desire to have my own home. Why can't I just chant it all away? And I could just live simply. I could just live in a hut on the foot of Govardhan, or live some little small room in Soho Street and preach. When I say small room in Soho, I mean small, like the size of a closet. They have guest quarters the size of a closet. It's very small. But why not live in a closet? Live simple. It's better than, working all day and paying bills to maintain a big house. So why can't I just chant that all away? And the answer is, well, you can, but not everybody can. And those who can't have to engage those things. Otherwise, they can't get rid of it. That's the reality. As sad or unfortunate as that may sound, why can't I just chat my way and transcend sex desire, the desire to be with the opposite sex? Why can't I do that? Why do I have to get married to do that? Why do I have to get a job and have a family and have a house and all these things to finally grow up when I'm 70 years old going, okay, I don't want it anymore. I've had it. I've had enough. I'm satisfied. Why? And you know what the answer is? Because. You ever ask a kid, why is your room dirty? Because. Why didn't you do your homework? Because. And the answer is because most of us have to do that. That's just how it is. We're not that advanced. Our chanting's not that pure. We're not that detached. So we have to do those things. But if you're not careful, those very things that you're doing to get over the desire for those things will destroy you. This one devotee, he was supposed to do service. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't do any service. I have no time. And you know what I said? My one sentence response to him was, what's her name? You don't have any time. That means you have a girlfriend. And then he wrote back with her name. I thought that was so funny. He was so fired up. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It was like, we're going to conquer the world. And then like 3 weeks later, sorry, I have no time for service. I'm like, okay, what's her name? So we don't want it to end up like that. Okay, nothing wrong with him getting married, having a girlfriend, but we don't want that to like ruin everything. That's the point. And you have to be careful because that can happen. It definitely can happen if you're not careful. I thought that was the funniest. And he didn't even laugh. He just wrote back. I don't know, maybe he laughed when he read the letter. But he just wrote back, her name is such and such. Like, okay, I called that shot. Sometimes you have a nice devotee. You have two nice devotees. They meet. Everyone thinks, yeah, it's a good combination. They should get married. And then all of a sudden, you don't see them for like 28 years. And they come back and they look like, oh, we're burned out. We forgot Krishna. It's like, that's not the way to do it. They're supposed to come together and then become brighter. Now there's two of them serving Krishna, double service. But if you don't play your cards right, then it backfires. It's like you create a demon and you chant the mantra, and then one syllable is wrong. Instead of the demon killing your enemy, he kills you. So it's something like that. If you're not careful, the very thing that was supposed to kill your material desire doesn't kill your material desire, just kills your spiritual life. So, interesting question. Yes. So I like the question because it just brings us to this reality that some things just don't go away by chanting because we're not that advanced. Hare Krishna. One should not use one's dhoti to blow one's nose except in times of emergency. That's from the Mahatma Prabhu, in case you didn't know. Okay. Kamini says, you reminded me that you had said that you would broadcast devotional concert with Bhadda Hari Prabhu. That would be such a treat, yeah. I'm thinking how to do it in my studio, but it's so hot in there. Well, we're working on getting new air conditioning. If we get new air conditioning, then we can do it in there. But now, you can't really do it because you'll hear in the background. So it's kind of ruin it. So, I have to work on that today. We're actually decided to do it. We bit the bullet, but I think it's probably the best thing in the long run, since I'm going to be sitting in this hot room for at least July, August, September, and part of October. And then it'll also have heating. And then I can, give class when it's hot. I don't have to sit and sweat. And then we can use that. And we can do the concerts in my studio, which has all the equipment. That would be fantastic. Someday it will happen. Just hold on. So many things will happen. I'm trying to live 108 years so I can finish them all. Sardia from South Africa says, I feel in ISKCON some sannyasi with good intention push their brahmacharis hard to renounce. As a woman, it is very clear when a man is still attracted to women, even if as a woman, even if subtly, if a man is attracted, it's easy, as a woman, it's easy to see if a man's attracted to a woman, even if subtly. I have seen several brahmacharis who are on the sannyas list who are clearly still attached to women. Is it in these devotees' best interest to push them to take sannyas? Wouldn't it be more balanced to encourage them to become serious grihasta, as they could still continue preaching and act as gurus in the future? Well, you answered your own question. Hare Krishna. Sardiya Rasa, I had I was at the GBC meeting, and they were reviewing. We're part of Sabha, so we if we want, we can attend the GBC meeting, and so if needed, we can report back to Sabha what was going on if we have to discuss anything in relation to that. So at the meeting I was in, they were part of the meeting. They were approving sannyasi, so they would put up a picture on the screen. This is so and so, and this is his background, his credentials, and we recommend he be on the waiting list for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. And then you'd vote on it. And I always said, no, not a bunch of sannyasis voting on it. Get in the women. They should vote on it because they know what the men don't know. Right? You agree, Sardiya Rasa? Why are you asking other sannyasis if he's qualified? Just ask the women. They know. And it's true. Maybe not 100% of the time, but it's true. But now, Sardiya Rasa, I have something to say about what you said. Now, let's say what you say is true, and even this man knows subtly he still has some attachment. But let's say he just doesn't want to go there. He doesn't really want to be grihasta. He really values sannyas, and he really wants to try for it. And he he's got good sadhana. He's a good devotee. He's been brahmachari for like 20, 30 years. Then we might think, okay, let him go for it. He may not be, he may not have been born as a sannyasi, but he's a good devotee, and he's never been married, and maybe he talks a little bit too much to women, or he's too nice to women. How do you know he's qualified to take sannyas? Because he's not nice to women. If he's too nice to women, he couldn't be a sannyasi, right? That's so funny. ISKCON has a few problems, right? Oh, here's so-and-so brahmachari. He's being recommended for sannyas. Is he nice to women? Yeah. Take him off the list. Is he not nice to women? No, he's nasty with women. Keep him on the list. Yeah. So that's a consideration, and what you're saying may also be true, but time will tell. So in some cases, the man may know, I wasn't born, I didn't come out of the womb thinking I want to be a sannyasi, but I really like yeah, I really want to do this. I don't. So he may be, attracted to women. But here's the other thing about men. A man might be attracted to a woman, but not enough to live with them. He's just like, he's nice to them. He's like friendly. He sees them like sisters, You think he's like, well, he must be attached. Maybe not always. And in his mind, he's thinking, I could never live with a woman. I might be attached. I might like them. And I might like to be around them sometimes a little bit, but I don't think I could live with them. So a lot of men are like that. So, but in general, what you say, there's a lot of truth to it. And the women need to be more involved in our movement, in making decisions. So, I don't understand the joke, Krishna. The question, what is her name? Good shot. I forget what I was talking about. Yes, women always know. We just feel the vibes. Yeah. So it could be true. You feel the vibe, but maybe deep in his heart, it's just he feels Grihastha ashram is not the place for him. That's possible. So it's if you think about ISKCON and what it's trying to do, there's all these awkward situations because so much of our culture has come from times of antiquity when all these things were not problems. No man would take sannyas who wasn't qualified. They would all be trained. If they were sannyasis, it would be seen like from the age of 8, and everyone else would be told you have to get married later on or just stay brahmachari as long as you can. Now we're adapting this whole culture in a different environment, so there's all these, it's like you take an engine out of a car and you put a new engine in. Like I'm going to put an electric engine in the car that had a gasoline engine. There's all kinds of problems in doing that. The car wasn't built for it. So it's like the West wasn't built for the Indian culture, and then we're trying to put all these Vedic cultural parameters in it, and sometimes it's like the car's like, this engine's too big for this car. The car's, isn't it like that sometimes? It's like the Western culture sometimes. You can't handle all this stuff, and then where it wouldn't be a problem in India, you bring it to the West and it becomes kind of a problem, Like, I don't know, I'm not a woman, but I was told that, when a man becomes sannyas, he becomes more attractive to women. So it's like, what to do? That seems to be a very Western reality. Do you want to hear a joke? This is really funny. This was told by a sannyasi. So you ask the sannyasi, why do you want to get married? Why do you want to take sannyas? He said, so I can find a good wife. And what did he mean? He said, because once you take sannyas, so many women will be attracted to you because renunciation is attractive, and then you can find a good wife. And I think Prabhupada even made a joke like that. Yeah. You want to find a good wife, take sannyas. So that's part of the awkwardness of transplanting Vedic culture in the West, where we're not exactly ready for everything. And we tried this with the Gurukula. Prabhupada was very, very adamant about the Gurukula as an ashram, that they should not live with their parents, because the idea is you can't train a young boy, you can't discipline him at home, because he won't be... It's not easy to discipline a young boy at home. But when you send him to the school and there's the guru with the stick, not that he's going to use the stick, but the guru's there, he'll be disciplined, and all the other boys are disciplined. You can teach him discipline in the school that you cannot teach at home. So the idea was, send him to the school at the age of 5. But most of the kids who had, not everyone had problems, but most of the kids, if not all, from what I was told, who had problems were the Western kids, not the Indian kids. The Indian kids were used to that. It was a tradition. They would go away. You see in China, Tibet, so many young boys become monks. It's the tradition. They're, young boys, they're not living at home. So we tried that in the West. It was like, it didn't work. The children needed their parents. plus the institution was not developed, the schools, we had teachers that weren't qualified, and so many other problems ensued. So, okay, go to India, you need some good Brahmin teachers, you probably have 1 million to choose from. How many do you have in America? So the whole situation is different. And you have, Hare Krishna. I'm going to wash this, after class, I'm taking this dhoti off and putting it in the laundry, just so you know, I'm not going to walk around with a dirty dhoti. In case you're wondering, how can you do that? That's so muchi. It is muchi. I don't recommend this. Unfortunately, I didn't bring tissue, so you'll have to excuse me, but this is going in the laundry. Just in case you're wondering, this is going in the laundry. So, don't get upset. Excuse me. So we have another question. You reminded me of a doubt I had reading when Srila Prabhupada said that if sometimes a devotee engages in abominable activities, he should still be considered a sadhu because he's engaged. Because he's engaged in serving Krishna. How should we interpret that? What abominable activities he is referring to? Socially unacceptable activities? Morally corrupt activities? It's referring to accidental fall down. I was having a long conversation with my daughter. She's amazing. She should give class. I should be doing something else right now. So she was talking about culture and training and how they found that where there's education, it solves so many social problems. And where there's more police, it doesn't. Where there's more education, there is. So, socially reprehensible activities done accidentally. So we were talking, about, she was talking about sexual abuse, and I was saying, it was a very interesting conversation because we were talking about sexual abuse done within the movement by devotees who did amazing service up to that point and even after that point, but they have this huge blemish. Like, how do you deal with them? It's a very sensitive issue, and it disturbs her a lot that anyone who has been found to be a sexual abuser would have any position in ISKCON, and a few do because I guess the abuse was not serious or for whatever reason, I don't know, I can't say. That's another topic. And so the topic was, like, how do you excuse an abomination, and at what point is the abomination too abominable to excuse? And I was saying that, sometimes a person is put in a circumstance and they're not intentionally intending to do something, but due to weakness or due to their humanness, not even weakness, sometimes due to their humanness, that practically anyone in that situation would have a difficulty. They sometimes accidentally do something. That's referring to that, the accidental mistake, and then the subsequent regret on behalf of that devotee. The regret that the devotee who, I didn't sleep enough last night. You don't sleep enough. Your mind is like, sometimes it turns into jello, you're trying to think and it's going, vroom. You can't think, you can't form sentences. So sometimes a person may do something, the circumstances are difficult, and then he commits a mistake or a sin, and then he regrets it. And he rectifies himself. That person, Krishna is saying, don't hold it against him. Now, the next question comes, well, what if he molested a 6-year-old child? Do you just overlook that? No, you don't, because that person's dangerous. And that was more than abominable. But if he rectifies himself, at least from a distance, you can say he's become a sadhu, he's cured himself. But at the same time, he may not have a place or position within our society because he's not considered dangerous, and we don't know for sure that he's cured. And parents would be concerned if they would feel uncomfortable around such a person. So those are other considerations. So Krishna's consideration is more like, okay, he did something abominable, but he regrets it. He's reformed himself. He doesn't do that anymore. You can consider him a saint, even if you want to keep him in jail. But he's a saint in jail, or you want to keep him out of your temple. Okay, he's a saint. He just can't come to my temple. So we have to make these adjustments. But Krishna's saying, in a sense, Krishna's saying, whatever adjustment you make, don't see him like an ordinary person. And then the question, next comes in, well, where does forgiveness come into when you're dealing with people who have done something beyond abominable? Krishna's not talking about child molestation or murder. At least I don't think so. Prabhupada says socially unacceptable behavior. He didn't say criminal behavior. And, these are situations you have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. And, a person does 50 years of devotional service, and one day for 10 minutes, he really makes a huge mistake. How do you deal with that? He's a sannyasi, and he went up to some girl, and he hugged her and kissed her. And that's all. And then he was like, oh my God, why did I do that? And that took like 20 seconds, and now the rest of his life is destroyed. We have to consider all these things in a compassionate perspective. Both compassionate to that sannyasi and compassionate to all the girls who are now completely afraid that he's going to come up and embrace them and kiss them. So, it's a balance, and it's not easy, which is why a lot of devotees don't want to be managers, because as managers you have to confront these issues. And I can guarantee you as a manager, however you would deal with a situation like that, you'll have people hating you. Just one side will love you, one side will hate you, no matter what decision you make in that area. Get rid of him. We can't allow him. All his disciples, all the people who like him are going to hate you. All the people that realize that that feel he's not qualified to be a guru or sannyasi will love you. You can't win. And half your godbrothers will say, get rid of him. Half your godbrothers will say, keep him. There's a saying, don't live, don't die. Because whatever you do someone's not going to like it. And so we're in the material world. These are realities. What to do. But at least for our own bhakti, we may think practically, okay, this person's done something horrible. They should not be allowed in the association. But for our own bhakti, at least we can respect from a distance that they did serve Prabhupada in amazing ways. Or they may, my daughter was asking me about some devotee. We were discussing some devotee who had done something abominable. Really abominable. Like you have to stay out of ISKCON abominable. And I said, that devotee made me a devotee. He's responsible, so like, how do I deal with it? And say, and if I say, well, he's very dear to me, and people will say, how can you say he's dear to you? He just molested some woman. And so, it's like a complicated issue. I said, no, but he got me out of the material world. He's like my guru. And then this devotee actually recently died, and if I write a eulogy, I didn't write anything, but if I write a eulogy, someone will say, why are you writing a eulogy? He's a sexual predator. So, you have your own feelings towards the person who helped you, and he did so many great things and so much great service and helped Prabhupada in so many ways. Then he did this other thing. And so these are very, very difficult issues to deal with, because you'll have something in your heart positive and something negative. Other people will only have negative. They only know him because of the abominable thing he did. And when you have anything positive to say, then they won't like you and say, how can you say that? He's a child molester. How could you say anything positive? You shouldn't say anything positive about a child molester. How can I have faith in you if you say something? It's like, it's a don't live, don't die scenario. But at least we can find some solace in this verse, as Krishna is saying, if he's repentant, then at least see him as a sadhu. Maybe we should write an article called Sadhu in Jail. Or should I do a daily video called Sadhu in Jail? Excuse me. Oh, I have a pencil. I write these things down. I haven't done some new recordings for a while, but like that. Sadhu in jail. Whoa. Sadhu in jail. All right. I can respect him. As long as he's in jail, I can respect him. You're never going to make everybody happy. I was just so funny. Have you ever been in this situation where you figure something out? And you go, okay, so you do this and you do that and you work with this one and you all work together. And then like 3 days later you get this letter. Sorry, I can't really work with this one. It's human nature. We just don't like certain people. Okay, here's a philosophical question. I just drank this water and I sneezed. Does that mean I'm allergic to this water? And you will say, yes, it must be. Here's another philosophical question. Has everyone who's ever died drank water? Yes, that means water killed them, right? Yes? No? Has everyone who's ever died breathed air? Yeah, that must mean breathing air. Breathing air causes death. Must be. Wouldn't it be fun to be a philosophy professor and just talk about that stuff all day, and you never have to conclude anything. And if you don't conclude anything, you don't have to surrender to anything, and you can just do whatever you want. That would be fun, right? If you're not a devotee. There's no truth. You can just like speculate and philosophize your way around inside, outside of anything. Okay. That answers your question, I hope. You asked the devotee who said he had no time for service, what is her name? Oh yeah, what is her name? Yeah. Oh, it was a good shot, yeah. I got 10 points for that one, right? So now every time you ask someone to do something, they say, I don't have time, you're all going to say, what's her name? What's his name? That may not always be the right thing to say. But in this situation, it was, because I knew exactly. So we have Radhika Kripa Devidasi. She is saying, you mentioned that one may see two devotees and feel they're a good match, and the couple forgets Krishna. How do we get around that and stay strong in spiritual life even when you are on... Hold on. We're coming back. How do we get around that and stay strong in spiritual life even when you are on cloud 9 in love? How does one address sexual energy in that kind of relationship? You know what I think, Radhika, and I think this would answer not only your question, but so many questions about how to stay strong in this situation or that situation. Every devotee, if they have somebody who is guiding them, the god uncle, the god aunt, the mentor, the counselor, the buddy, the somebody who is capable and qualified to guide them, who keeps an eye on them, and when they start to step out of line, that person catches them and says, no, don't do that. That will be problematic. And they would have done it if they didn't have that counselor, because they don't know that it's problematic. The counselor knows. So I think it's very, very... If you have some senior devotees' guidance on a regular basis, you are in a very safe position. And if you don't have, try to find locally in your area someone who will be an accountability partner, a counselor, a mentor, a somebody that keeps their eye on you. in some way, or someone you can go to and say, I'm feeling uncomfortable about this situation. My boyfriend and I were on cloud nine, and I don't always finish my rounds now, and we're always talking, and I'm not reading, and then you talk, and then your counselor, that person, he's got objectivity, and he helps you. That's very important. You know what the problem with cloud? You know what cloud nine actually is? It's a drug. They should come up with a drug called cloud nine, and when you take the drug, you fall in love. You just whoever you see, you fall in love with, because what we call falling in love is a hormone. It's a drug that's drugging our consciousness, and we are as you see when people are in love, they're not the way they used to be. It's like he's not like he used to be. He's different. He doesn't have time for us. He's always with her, and he's always talking, and then and so it's good to know that a lot of that is hormonal. The synergy of coming together is hormonal, and they're feeling a certain way, like unconquerable. But anytime a couple comes together, they should be very cautious that this relationship can really help us, but it could also potentially take us away from Krishna. And if we see it's not helping in those areas that we're harming ourselves, we have to do something, like right away. And sometimes it's difficult if it's just you and the man. That's why the third party is so helpful, because it's easy for them to just say, don't do this. It's hard for you to stop doing it. Okay, Sardia, I answered her question about the sannyasi who should get married, or the sannyas candidate who should get married. I can see that you are right. Men may be attracted to women, but at the same time know that they couldn't live with or take care of them. You have an example like Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was married for a year. Hridayananda Maharaj was married for a year. Indrajit Swami was probably married longer. And there may be other examples. And they realized that ashram was not the best ashram for them. And they didn't understand that, unfortunately, until they got married. It's better to understand it before you get married. But Hridayananda Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I think within 1 year, realized that this was the wrong ashram. And they wanted to get married, and people said, oh, you want to get married? Yeah, you should get married, you're a grihasta. And they realized that actually they were sannyasis by getting married. So in that scenario of a brahmachari, and maybe not ready, you just wait longer, wait till they're older. The older you get, the more ridiculous it is to be married, to get married again, right? But it is true, as we have this joke in ISKCON, he went through Varnashram backwards. Started out as sannyas, then became grihasta, then became vanaprast, and then became sannyas again. It did a full circle. So it's funny, but it's not funny. Hare Krishna. I did something kind. One said I did something kind, but I don't know what. Krishna Karshani, the Pole, says, if you would be Krishna West, you would have nothing to use to clean your nose, advantage of wearing dhoti. Yeah. Or if you're not Krishna West, if you're Krishna East, you just go outside, hold your nose and blow it, and then just get some water and wash yourself. And you save so many trees by blowing your nose without tissue. And tissues are muchi, because then you have all this mucus in a tissue. What to speak of a handkerchief, and you're walking around with a handkerchief full of mucus. That is totally mlecha. We think it's sophisticated. I got a nice, beautiful handkerchief. I blow my nose and I carry it around, the mucus around in my pocket. That's very sophisticated. And then you go to India and someone's blowing their nose. You go, oh, gross. They're blowing their nose. No tissue, just coming out. And then they wash themselves. It's actually more suchi. Now you learned something today about being suchi. Suchi means clean, muchi means dirty. It's a Bengali word. So using tissue is muchi. Just like toilet Okay, you go to the toilet, you take some tissue, and you smear it all on your rear end. That's pretty clean, huh? Just smear it. Oh, you get some off, and what you don't get off, you just leave on and smear it on. You get water and wash it off. That's clean, right? So Westerners, they're into toilet paper. They think, oh, you go into the ashram, your first day in the ashram, there's no toilet paper. What do I do? There's no toilet paper. Oh, water. Water. I've never used water. Yeah. Yeah, water actually cleans you. Toilet paper does not clean you. If you accidentally picked up something that you thought was a rock and it was dog poop, would you be happy just taking a tissue and rubbing it in your hand? I don't think so. I think you would run and get some water and soap, don't you? So now Western civilization, they just take tissue and rub their stuff on their rear end. This is mleccha consciousness. But we're such mlechas raised in the West, we don't even know. And we think, oh, it's not very cultured. They don't have toilet paper. Not very cultured. He blew his nose. And there was no tissue. Right? What to speak of passing stool and urine on the ground in public, which is kind of the way people have done it in the countries forever. And actually, Prabhupada liked it. And we're like, oh my God, that's so horrible. Prabhupada liked it. It's nature, As I say, for the men, the bathroom is everywhere. There's a universal bathroom. Sometimes when we're driving and I have to go, and they say, I'm sorry there's no bathroom. I say, for men, everywhere is a bathroom. It's a universal bathroom, as long as nobody's watching you. So the women are thinking, oh, that's so gross. Actually, toilets are gross. They really are, because they accumulate all the excrement and then they just deposit it somewhere. So we have things backwards. All right. If I were Krishna West, I would not be able to blow my nose. That's the advantage of being Krishna East, right? So many advantages of wearing a dhoti, You can dry your hands. I once, when I was a young devotee, a devotee took Charnamrita, took the water, washed his hands, and then he dried it with his dhoti, and I thought that was the most unsuchi, horrible thing I'd ever seen in my life, because your dhoti should be clean. You shouldn't wipe your hands on it. So I got trained that way, to be a Brahmin. An accidental mistake also implies it's not repeatedly committed, Or it can also, if it's repeatedly committed, it can mean two things. That the person there's something terribly wrong with that person, or the person has an addiction and they need help, or both. Or you might say, well, they have the addiction, that must be terribly wrong. I mean something wrong in that they have no ability to know their problem and control their problem, no desire to control it. They've given up on life, something like that. Also symptoms of addiction, but addiction do have unique characteristics where a person's actually powerless in many cases. Okay, that mistake can destroy a life of other person. It's dangerous, Was that about the couple? The mistake they make going too far, Seems like a complicated subject. I got what you explained. And the point is every situation is different. And the point that you can get out of this class, some of what we discussed, is that you actually require pretty good intelligence to know what's abominable, what isn't, how to deal with an offender, how not to, all these things. It requires maturity, spiritual knowledge, insight, intelligence. And so as you grow and mature in Krishna consciousness, you understand more and more, and the more you understand, the more you can apply it in a mature way. That means it'll get a good result. Right? And that's what we need all of you to do. And that's why you may notice when I give class and I give instructions, a lot of times I don't always give direct instruction, but I give instructions with which you could make a decision. Like, okay, what should I do? Well, consider A, B, C, and D and make a decision. Because I don't want to always make decisions for you. I want you to have the tools and the knowledge And then you make the decision, because that's how you mature. And we need devotees like that to run the movement. So you make mature decisions. And if I make all the decisions for you, you'll start thinking, oh, I can't make decisions. Because your decision-making capacity is not being used because you're handing it over to someone else. Of course, obviously, in many situations, you may not be qualified to make a decision, or the problems are very subtle and difficult. But in a lot of situations, you are capable. Just like what Sardiya said in that question, should these men be allowed to take sannyas? He was just making an observation that a lot of men probably are not qualified and they're being given sannyas. So you're just using your intelligence and understanding the situation. And not always right and wrong for every situation. A challenging question, challenging question. Oh, class is over, 9:30. Okay, that's the question tomorrow. All right, I'll answer the question. You know my joke when you have a question that's really difficult, you don't want to answer it, or you don't even know the answer. You know how you get out of it? Say, Prabhu, Mataji, I think you should ask your spiritual master to answer this question. There it is. You're out. You're off the hook. You don't have to answer it. But you don't know the answer, just tell them, I don't know the answer. If you're too embarrassed to say you don't know the answer, say, I think you should ask your guru. Okay, a challenging question. If a devotee has a recorded history of child abuse, out of respect for the victims, even if the abuser has been reformed, it seems fair that they should not be given any position. Well, fortunately, in authority in ISKCON, fortunately, there are rules and regulations in ISKCON to guide us in this, so we don't have to make a decision. And generally, well, it depends on the offense, the severity of the offense, but I have many godbrothers that will never be allowed in ISKCON ever again in their life. So there are those rules that if the offense has of a certain degree of severity and consistency, they will not be allowed ever again to participate in ISKCON. And some of those rules are they can come to ISKCON, but they can't have anything to do with children. In some, there's a time frame. In 5 years, they can start again if they do A, B, and C and take this course and certified that the problem is not there. So fortunately we have the CPO, so we don't have to make those decisions that's outlined there. And of course you have governments also that you have to deal with. Sadhu in jail, good title. Everyone's going to think, what's sadhu in jail? There's actually a movie, Love Potion number 9. There's a song also, right? Oh my God. Yeah, it must be a song. Yeah, that is so funny. I forgot about that song. Love Potion number 9. Something like that. John, you would know. You're from that generation. Is that how the melody goes? Love Potion number 9. Wow, yeah. Because when people fall in love, they realize it's a drug and they're intoxicated. Love Potion. So Ananda Sham is asking, do you think that ISKCON management should lead internal investigation about abuses and on that way help to put guilty people in jail? At the same time, respect them as sadhus in jail. Well, I'm not the right person to ask, but I was involved in a case with my godbrother, and one of the obstacles, and Ananda Sham, you're probably going to have to deal with this, because if you're the Ananda Sham I'm thinking you are, or there could be many, I can't see your picture, but you're studying to be a lawyer, and a lawyer who was involved in the case in defending one devotee who he thought was unfairly treated, observed that the devotees doing the investigation are not trained to do investigation. So the answer is yes, you have to do the investigation. You have to know what's going on. And sometimes you have to do the investigation along with the police, or sometimes the police will do the investigation. Sometimes the person has been turned into the police, and they'll do it because we're legally obliged, at least in America, to turn in offenders, child abusers, and so forth. And as Prabhupada said, you respect them from a distance. So the CPO does do investigations, even of respected devotees, if there's, reasonable evidence to do the investigation. And it will get better over time. We'll become more professional. But for the protection of the society and children, yeah, even if it's a respectable member, you can't turn a blind eye. You have to do it. And I think Prabhupada's statement, respect them from a distance, is a good way to. They did a lot of service to Prabhupada. They've done many great things, and they've done some really bad things. I respect you from a distance, but no longer do I respect you as a. But I respect you from a distance for what you did, but I also for what you also the abominable thing you did. That cannot be forgotten, and we have to deal with that appropriately. So it's a fine line. Now, this is an interesting question. And why don't one of you ask Hridayananda Maharaj this question? I'd be interested in his answer. The verse in which Krishna, that we're discussing, where Krishna said, even if he commits an abominable action. Asked Hridayananda Maharaj if he knows, by looking at the Sanskrit or the commentaries, if there is a threshold of what is considered beyond abominable, that Krishna is not talking about, like child molestation. Is Krishna referring to that? Is he referring to murder and like that? In the commentaries I read, unfortunately, it seems that Krishna is referring to anything. But I think the criteria is it's not, like Kamaniya said, it's not consistent, it's not premeditated. The person could have gotten help. They didn't. They allowed themselves to be in compromised positions. They were reprimanded before it happened, and they went and did it again. That's like a different situation. My understanding was, in that verse, it's like anything goes if it's accidental. But I think we should let Hridayananda Maharaj weigh into that, and you can report what he says. It's an interesting discussion. You could speculate and say, well, at the time Krishna spoke that, what was abominable today, what he considered abominable, might have been like okay today. What he considered abominable was unimaginable. Of course, you say, how could Krishna not imagine? But unimaginable for the average member of society. Like we were told, we have heard that when the predictions of Kali Yuga for people in the last age were unbelievable. They did not believe that these things would happen. They did not believe people would eat cows. They couldn't believe that. There was no place in their brain that could find residence that a human being would eat a cow in the last age. So what's abominable now is perhaps different than what was abominable then. So these are questions that would be interesting to discuss. And sadhus in jail. Well, I'm going to have to think about this, Ananda Sham, when I give my daily video called Sadhus in Jail. Parker says, I was attracted to a young lady in the ashram. I was just thinking about what it was doing to my own Krishna consciousness. And I wasn't strong enough to me to detach. Then Kalakanta Prabhu is the local resident counselor and guru, told me it was cruel what you are doing to that girl because my flirting behavior was destroying her Krishna consciousness. Good point. This shocked me very much, and it was easy to act properly, respectfully, out of compassion. Yeah. Very good. And the same thing if you're married, out of compassion you act properly towards your wife. Okay, I got the melody right. Love potion number 9. So is that the title of today's class? Love potion number 9? Took my troubles down to Madam you. Can you remember that class we gave like 2 months ago where like every point we made had a song to go with it? Took my troubles down to Madam you. She's not as smart as my guru. Okay, new words. So, I told you, I don't know if I told you, but we have, you remember we were fooling around with the imagine because we were talking about racial equality and we were saying, imagine everyone was seeing equally. Well, we ended up writing a song. I think I told you. I didn't write it. My godbrother Sreshwar Prabhu wrote it, and we want to release it from our group, the Subha, and we're just getting the approval. And if they approve, then we're going to release the song, and then you can hear it. So we put new lyrics to imagine, lyrics that everyone who read the lyrics said, oh, this totally encompasses everything Bhakti Charaswami stands for, or stood for, or still stands for. So it's dedicated to him. So that's going to be interesting. Okay. Well, it's that time of day when we have to say goodbye. And I don't know if we're more confused now than when we started class, but Krishnadas Kaviraj says you should not shy away from philosophical discussions because these kinds of discussions clarify and purify. And these are the kinds of discussions that Brahmins have and leaders have, and because they have to know how to guide others. And so the better you understand these issues, the better you'll be able to explain them, and the better you will be able to guide others. And that's what we need. We need mature, experienced, intelligent devotees to guide the next generation. So we don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. And you are in a very important position, all of you, to lead ISKCON into the future. Hare Krishna. And my last words, don't take love potion number 9. It will ruin your Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premandi. Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. Gauranga.